Good morning. I have one of my old favorites today. So, welcome to Web of Stories. My name is Melinda, and I am here with my weekly wrap-up. I am filming this on Friday, February 14th, which is Valentine's Day. It is also my state of Oregon's 166th birthday. And, you know, life in the U.S. is, it's a thing right now, but I feel very lucky to live in Oregon. We have, our government is fighting back. We have protections that a lot of places don't have, so I do feel lucky for that. Also, February 14th, Valentine's Day, for those of you who are asking about the bookshelves, because of my daughter's birthday, which was yesterday, and the winter storm we had, I told my husband that we would celebrate Valentine's Day next week, which would give him time to buy me a bookshelf. So we'll see if he took that hint, because I don't know how much clearer I can be. So yes, that's what's going on now. But yeah, so happy birthday, Oregon. And for those of you who saw my mid-month book bash and asked about my kids are fine. They were not sick. They just ate too much crap on Super Bowl Sunday, and it all came up. That's what it was. They should know better. That's what I thought it was. Bookish Best Friend's actually a doctor, and she said, look, if they're out playing video games, even if it is norovirus, you don't need to worry about it. So they are fine. We never got sick. It's all good. There we go. And also yesterday was my daughter's 16th birthday. All she wanted for her birthday was snow, and I got that for her because I'm the best mom ever. And not only did I get her snow, I got her a 5-day weekend because they canceled school yesterday, they canceled school today, and then she has a Monday off for President's Day. So yes, I am the best mom ever. See how I work that all out. Anyhow, that's what's going on in my neck of the woods. Oh, another thing. I don't know if you guys were aware of this, and maybe if you live someplace where snow is really common, it's just too common for this to be a thing, but snowy weather is the best reading weather. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's like the snow absorbed sound, but that doesn't really make sense because my kids are home and it's noisy. But oh man, it is the best reading weather. So really, I'm going to make the most of it. I made the most of it yesterday, and I'm going to make the most of it today and read. That's my plan for today. But let me go through what I read last week. So last week I finished 4 books. And the first book I finished, and I talked a little bit about these in my mid-month book bash, but not everybody watches those vlogs, which is perfectly fine, so I'll touch on them again. The first one I finished was The Conductors by Nicole Glover. So this is like a historical fantasy mystery, a fantasy historical mystery. It's set in Philadelphia after the Civil War, although there are flashbacks to before the Civil War, and it's a mystery and there's magic elements. So put all those together and you get that. And I did this as a buddy read with Katie Sykes, and I enjoyed it. My husband just came downstairs, wanted to make his presence known. I enjoyed it. I wish I hadn't listened to it. Not that the audiobook is bad. The audiobook is good. It's just there's so many characters in that book, and I had trouble keeping them straight. And Katie even said she was reading it. She had some trouble keeping them straight. So there is that. I didn't see the end coming, but I don't know if that's because it was a really good mystery or I just couldn't keep the characters straight. Don't know. But I enjoyed my time with it. I would love to see a screen adaptation of this because the magic is so interesting. There's like different kinds of magic. Like there's healing magic and potion magic, but the kind of magic that these people do is where they like draw sigils, and I know what a sigil is from watching All About Agatha. Sigils, and then they make things, and it looks really cool. So I would love to see an adaptation of this. There is a sequel to this book, and then it's a duology. So I do plan to actually read the second book, but I'm going to read it. There's also like a book that's set, I don't want to say it's a third book, but it's set in the same universe, but it's set a little bit later. So it's the same kinds of magic in that kind of world, but completely different characters. And I may read that as well, but we'll see. So I finished that one. I gave that one, I will be fair, I gave that one 3 stars because I don't feel like 3 stars is, I would recommend this book, maybe with some caveats. Caveat is don't listen to it. But also I sometimes when I don't feel I can give a full rating, I will give something 3 stars. 3 is not a bad rating in my book. And that's kind of the case here because I kind of feel like I missed stuff by listening to it. So So the second book I have, I'm not going to actually talk too much about it. I don't really need to talk that much about it. But this is a book that I have been picking at, like reading out of sequence bits over it since I got it in the spring. But then it showed up on the BookTube Prize octafinal lists. And I am not doing this round of the BookTube Prize, but I am reading some books from it. And I owned this book. So I said, well, I'll just go ahead and read it. And that is Judi Dench, Shakespeare, The Man Who Pays the Rent. It's actually Judi Dench and this other guy. What's this other guy's name? Hold on. Brendan O'Hay. So this is just transcriptions of a bunch of interviews that he did with her over a period of time about her career performing in Shakespearean theater. And he goes play by play, which is why I was kind of picking through it, because I was reading the parts of the plays that I had read as part of the barn room. My husband's here. I loved this book. I'm not going to say too much about it because I might end up getting it as part of the BookTube Prize. I loved it. It was great for me because of my Shakespeare interest, and I love Judi Dench. It was a 5-star book. If I had a wish list item for this, I wish there were more pictures of her days when she was of her in the roles when she was talking about them, because she's talked from when she's in school all the way up to pretty much the present day. I believe Judi Dench is, for all intents and purposes, retired at this point. She is losing her eyesight. And that does come up a little bit in this. So loved this, but I'm not going to say more about it. And then I finished, this is a book I've been reading for a while. I finished The Best American Mystery and Suspense, edited by S.A. Cosby. Hold on a sec. Oh, it went away. I had a little alert thing that was stuck on my phone. So this is part of the Best American things. I did the short story one before this, and then this one. And I enjoyed this one. This was more successful for me than the short story one. But in general, there's always different editors every year. So last year, Lisa Unger did this one, and it wasn't as successful for me. However, Lisa Unger has a good story in here, so there you go. But S.A. Cosby doesn't have a story in here, but he had one last year, so that's how that works out. But you can really see the influence of the guest editors. That's why with the Best American Short Stories, this year it was Lauren Goff. Last year it was Min Jin Lee. I thought last year's worked a little bit better, but you could really see Min Jin Lee, and that's just a preference issue on my side. But I did really enjoy this, and you could see S.A. Cosby's influence in it. These are great ways to just sort of, a lot of these authors I'd never heard of. In fact, most of them I had not. Bookshelf. He owes me a bookshelf. Let me kind of go through here really quickly and just tell you the ones that pop off that whose names I know. Megan Abbott, Alyssa Cole. I'm reading an Alyssa Cole book right now, and I picked it up because of the story in here. Tanana Reeve-Dew. Lisa Unger and LaToya Watkins. Those are the only names I recognize out of here. But the stories are generally pretty good. I gave this one 4 stars because I didn't feel like I could give it the same one I gave the Best American Short Stories, because I thought this one was better. So this is 4 stars. And then, the 4th book I finished, which I read the bulk of yesterday as I was enjoying the benefits of reading on snow days, was Sparkling Cyanide. This month's Agatha Christie, Sparkling Cyanide. So I said before, this is a standalone. It's not really a standalone. It's number 4 in the Colonel Race series, which is essentially a standalone. Colonel Race is really boring. As a character, he's not interesting at all. And the last one I read that was a Colonel Race book was Towards Zero, which he spent almost the entire time he was on the page talking about Perot. So it's essentially a standalone, but it talks about a year previous to the action in this book. A group of people were out, and a woman committed suicide, and then a year later they're going to commemorate it, and things happen. This has a pretty high rating. I think it's almost a 4 point on Goodreads. And I wish I hadn't seen that beforehand, because I think that made my expectations a little high. This was, for me, a 4 point until the end of the book. To discuss really my issues with it would be spoilery, so I'm not going to do that. But I am going to say I really felt like Agatha Christie didn't play quite fair with this one, which is, playing fair means that the author gives, in however way, it could be as cloaked as possible, but the author gives the reader all the information that the reader needs to solve the mystery. And I did not feel that was the case in this one. And Agatha Christie was really a proponent of playing fair, so that's something that kind of sticks out to me. That was just it. And I can't get into the specifics because it would be major spoiler, but as I said, most of it was a 4-point. I ended up giving it a 3-star. So I'd recommend it, just with caveat saying that you have to be okay with her not playing fair. So that's what I read this week. I, again, have too much going on. Usually once I finish a short story collection, I just immediately move on to another short story collection. But because I have so much going on right now, I'm going to wait until March to start another short story collection. But I did start Sula last night by Toni Morrison, which I've never read Toni Morrison. This is my first ever Toni Morrison. And I'm reading this particular one because on one of my challenges, I have the challenge to read a book that was published in my year of birth. And it was. So I'm reading that one. And I think it's going to be, I might read it today, like all of it today, which would be good. We'll see. So that's kind of what's going on now. But I had a promise for all of you, and that was, if you watched my 1000K Q&A, I finished it with 2 truths and a lie that Mariandria asked me, and I gave you my 3 things, and I asked you all to tell me which one you think was a truth or a lie. So the first one was, I have 5 older siblings. I think almost everyone said they thought this was the lie. The second one, the first car that I ever learned to drive on was a Thunderbird. And the third one is, I am in the dedication of an actual book, like a real published, you'd find it in a bookstore book. I have a little confession. This is like 1.5 lies, and I didn't realize that till after the fact, but I'll get to that. So the first one, I have 5 older siblings. This is one everyone thought was a lie. It is true. I have 5 older brothers. They are 14 to 21 years older than I am. So do the math there. Like they were boom, 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 boom. Because they are so much older than I was pretty much raised as an only child, because I don't even really have memories of any of them living with us until an adult, but that's a whole other story. It's not really my story, but anyway. But yes, so I have 5 older brothers. One of my brothers, my middle brother Joel, died in 1990, so I have 4 that are still living. One lives in Virginia and Minnesota. He summers in Minnesota. 1 lives in Wisconsin, and 2 live in my hometown of Salem, Oregon. They are technically my half siblings. We have different fathers. Their father died in Vietnam, and then my mom met my father and had me. But that's a technicality because they're all close to my dad. My dad sees them as his kids. We're all family. Because I have 5 older siblings, that also means I have, okay, so hold a sec. I have 6 nieces. Oh, my husband's looking at me.
No, I'm saying you're missing the best point to tell him.
What am I missing?
Your mother, who had 5 sons, when she met me, she said, "You're just like one of my sons."
Did she say
kind
that?
Of Freudian stuff
Did you hear that from my husband? Yeah. And she wasn't wrong, actually. My husband does actually kind of look like he would fit into a picture of my brothers, but that's back to that. Now my husband made his little appearance there. I have 6 nieces and a nephew. However, my oldest niece, Maya, we are only 6 years apart, and we pretty much grew up together. So technically she's my niece, but she's really like my sister. So 6 nieces and a nephew. I have 5 great nieces. And 1, I call her my super great niece. So I'm a super great aunt. That's what happens when you have a big family with wide age ranges. So yeah, that one was true. The second one, my first car that I learned to drive in was a Thunderbird. That is a lie. It was a Mustang. When I got my permit, my father went out and bought this little green Mustang car for me to learn to drive in because I'm daddy's girl. And it was so cool looking. Somewhere I have a picture of it. Unfortunately, my father got it cheap because it had a crap transmission. So I didn't have that car very long. I did learn to start driving on it, but it crapped out pretty early on. So my father traded it in for a Volvo, which lasted for a very long time. So most of my learning was on a Volvo, but I did start on a Mustang. So the third one is I'm the dedication of like a published book. This is the one that I realized after I did that was actually kind of sort of a little lie, because I'm actually in two. So the first one is a book that came out in 1996 called Web Weaving that my friend Tyler was one of the authors on. This was a computer book. It's not in print anymore. I mean, I think it's just technology. It's out of date. But I was thanked in it for reasons I don't understand, but I was in there. And then the second one is this book, The Primetimer Guide to Streaming TV. So before BookTube, I did some modding on the Primetimer site, which used to be previously TV, and then became Primetimer, which was just sort of like a discussion site for TV shows, which is really ironic since I don't watch TV shows anymore. This is just a book that kind of goes through all sorts of TV shows and what's going on and streaming and all this. And I am mentioned in it because I was a mod at the time. I am no longer at all involved with this site. Like a year after this book came out, there was some really bad things that happened behind the scenes on this site, and there was a mass exodus, and I was part of that mass exodus from this site. So if you're looking for a site to discuss TV shows, do not go to Primetimer, because there's some shady stuff that goes on there. I will let you know another one if you want to know. But yeah, so I am mentioned in this too, and I totally forgot about that. So those are my 1.5 truths and 1.5 lie. Sorry about that. So anyway, that was my week. That was pretty quick. I've got like reading to do because it's still snowy out. The snow is going to melt today, which is fine because in Oregon we do snow well. It snows. It's pretty. It melts. You go on with your life. None of this. The snow stays around for years. Shirt check. T-shirt check. Sorry. If you watched my mid-month book bash, you saw this shirt before. But yeah, that was my. So anyway, I'm gonna let that go. Like, subscribe, join my Discord. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye. Okay, y'all, here's some proof of the snow. It's starting to warm up, so things are melting a little bit. The reason there is a pile on that table, my kids did that yesterday, and then it snowed again overnight. So there you go. That's my backyard in the snow.